I can't even imagine. I can't even tell you how I feel. My body is just completely numb. I don't think I even processed the fact that my daughter is gone.
You were the only suspect. You are the only suspect. You have nowhere to hide. Be a man and come forward.
Police say Kevin Faux is the father of Ashanti Allen's unborn child and is being charged with murder. Court records show Faux was accused of assaulting Ashanti last fall. Search teams found the body of the 23-year-old this morning at Chimney Rock Park. Allen was last seen a week ago. Then early Friday morning, her mother says she received a text message from her daughter telling her she was leaving and not coming back.
A family is demanding answers, not just about who killed Ashanti Allen, but about how a man with a domestic violence conviction was walking free weeks before she turned up dead in a park, 8 months pregnant, her son never getting the chance to take his first breath. Ashanti Allen was 23 years old, Houston, Texas. A quiet girl by all accounts. Introverted, sweet, the kind of person people describe as just trying to build something. She had a job, her own apartment on Main Street, and a baby on the way that her whole family was counting down for. Her dad, Edward, was already calling the baby his grandson before he was even born. They had a name picked out, Jaxon. A car seat and stroller were about to be purchased. Her life, by every measure, was moving forward. And then on April 8th, she vanished. But here's what almost nobody is talking about. When Ashanti's mother, Teresa, went to that apartment after getting that suspicious text, she found something that should have broken this case open immediately. The baby's clothes were still there. Ashanti's clothes were still there. Everything a woman 8 months pregnant would need was sitting exactly where she left it. She didn't pack. She didn't prepare. Whatever happened to Ashanti Allen, she did not leave on her own terms, and the people closest to her knew it from the jump. So why did it take days before a full-scale search was launched? Now the text itself. On April 10th, around 3:50 in the morning, Teresa received a message from her daughter's phone. I am leaving, not coming back. That's it. No context, no follow-up, nothing. And Teresa said immediately, that is not my daughter. Not the words, not the timing, not the energy. So ask yourself, who sends a text like that at 3:50 in the morning and then goes completely silent? And more importantly, who was actually holding that phone? Because when Teresa tracked down Ashanti's white Lincoln SUV, Ashanti was not in it. Someone else was driving her mother's car. And when Teresa confronted that person and asked where her daughter was, she got no straight answers. None. That car was eventually recovered. But the person behind the wheel and whatever they knew about what happened that night has barely been addressed publicly. That is a loose thread that needs to be pulled. Texas EquuSearch got involved and set up a command post near Buffalo Speedway. Drones in the air, ATVs on the ground, volunteers combing through southwest Houston. Founder Tim Miller was honest about where they stood early on. No evidence of foul play, but no evidence she left willingly either. They were operating in a gray zone, while a pregnant woman and her unborn son were somewhere out there. Think about the weight of that for a second. 8 months pregnant. High-risk pregnancy. She had been using a wheelchair at points because of complications, including fainting spells. This was not a woman who could just disappear and survive on her own undetected. The urgency was real, and the clock was moving. Then investigators got a break. Ashanti's cell phone was located at Edgewood Park, and the data pulled from that phone showed it had previously pinged near Chimney Rock Park. On the morning of April 16th, Tim Miller and the EquuSearch team made their way there, and they found her near a bayou at Chimney Rock Park, close to West Belfort, 8 days after she was last seen alive. Her cause of death is still pending autopsy results, but by that evening, Houston police had already filed a murder charge, and the name attached to that charge was Kevin Faux, 24 years old, and the father of her unborn child. Now here is where this case stops being just a tragedy and becomes something that should make every single one of us furious. Because Kevin Faux was not a stranger to law enforcement. He was not someone who slipped through the cracks unnoticed. In September 2025, he was arrested and charged for allegedly abusing Ashanti, and he was released. Then in February of 2026, just weeks before she went missing, he was convicted of assaulting a family member. That family member was Ashanti, convicted, and still Somehow he was a free man. So the question that Ashanti's mother has been asking out loud, the question that deserves a real answer, is how does a man with a domestic violence conviction against a woman who is 8 months pregnant with his child end up back on the street? Because that is not a system failure. That is a pattern. And Ashanti Allen paid for that pattern with her life. And so did Jaxon, a little boy who never got to exist outside of his mother's womb. Let's talk about Kevin Faux for a minute, because the picture that's emerging of this man goes beyond what's been reported in most places. Screenshots have been circulating online, messages allegedly sent by Faux to someone connected to Ashanti, and the content of those messages is something else entirely. In one exchange, he threatens retaliation against someone's mother. He warns them that if anything happens to his moms, meaning Ashanti, there will be consequences. He tells them he has more information on them than they think. And then he closes it out with this, "Touch her, and you gonna have 2 MFS you gone miss." Two people you're going to miss. He wasn't talking about 2 random people. He was referencing Ashanti and that unborn baby. And what makes that message even more significant is that it was edited after it was sent, meaning he went back and changed something. He had a moment of awareness, enough to go back into that message and alter it. That is not someone acting purely out of rage. That shows calculation. That shows a man thinking about how his words could be used against him. Now couple that with what was reportedly shared with Ashanti's brother. Faux allegedly reached out to her family members directly with threatening communications around this same period. Think about what that tells you about his state of mind. This wasn't just a domestic dispute that escalated. This was a man who felt cornered by her pulling away, by a newborn that would legally bind them together, by a conviction on his record that was already changing the dynamic between them. And he responded to feeling cornered the way controlling men in these situations often do. And here is something that doesn't get discussed enough in cases like this. Ashanti was hiding what was happening. Her own father admitted it publicly. There had been several disputes he was completely unaware of. Her mother didn't know the full picture either.
You're Ashanti's dad?
I'm Ashanti's dad.
Tell me how you're feeling right now.
To be honest with you, my body's been numb ever since I've received this phone call. We was hoping for the best, but now we've heard the worst. Being pregnant 8 months with my first grandson, I can't even imagine, I can't even tell you how I feel. My body is just completely numb. I don't think I even processed the fact that my daughter's gone. But I know it's gonna hit me, it's gonna hit me hard. 'Cause I love my baby girl. She was my only girl, my baby girl, and then she had my only baby grandson. So right now, I can't put it in words how I feel.
A lot of people described her as sweet, saying that she was an introvert and whatnot. Tell us a little bit about her.
Yeah, she was sweet. I mean, she went to community college, got a degree, and she was working for Bentab Hospital. She loved her job. She was doing good. She was great. She's 23 years old. She had a career, got pregnant, first baby. She was excited about that, and her life was going somewhere. It was going somewhere until, unfortunately, this happens. You know, the wrong people in your life.
Dad, how would you like how would you like your daughter to be remembered? How would you like the community to remember your daughter? Those that didn't know her.
Well, she was a young lady, 23 years old. Living life, had a career, working, doing like all of us do, go to work, come home. She was expecting a baby. I mean, she had baby clothes. I was about to go buy a car seat and stroller and all this other stuff. I mean, she's just a normal girl, pretty girl, working and just trying to live life. That's it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But I guess what happens now you have to plan a funeral, so I'm sure that's not what you guys wanted.
No, it's not what I actually went to work this morning. I'm a truck driver by trade, and we've been hoping for the best, and I've just been trying to occupy my mind. I went to work, And I got the phone call. I had to turn around and come out of the place where I was at and head over here, hearing this bad news of my daughter. And like I said, I cried, but now my body is just numb because I don't even know what to think anymore.
She had been quietly absorbing this abuse, likely trying to manage the situation on her own, possibly protecting her family from worry while she was pregnant. That is an incredibly common response to domestic violence, and it is one of the reasons these situations turn fatal. Because when the victim is carrying the secret alone, there is no safety net. There is no one positioned to intervene when things escalate to the point of no return. By the time her family found out about the September 2025 arrest, they found out because things had already gotten this bad, and now they're standing at a gravesite instead of a baby shower. So what pushed him to do it when he did? There are a few possibilities worth examining seriously. The first is the most straightforward. She was leaving. The "I'm leaving and never coming back" text, whether she sent it or he did, signals that a separation was in motion. Research on intimate partner homicide is consistent on this point. The period when a victim attempts to leave is the most dangerous window. He had already shown he was capable of violence. He had a conviction to prove it, and now she was potentially walking out with his child. The second possibility ties directly into that baby. Jaxon was weeks away from being born. Once that child entered the world, Faux was legally bound to Ashanti for the next 2 decades minimum. Child support, custody arrangements, her having documented legal power over decisions involving his son. For a man who clearly operated from a place of control and dominance, that might have felt like a cage closing around him. Some men in abusive relationships don't just want to possess the woman. They want an exit that leaves them with nothing to answer for. The third possibility, and this one is important, is that she had started talking. Look at the top of that screenshot again. Someone told a third party that Ashanti said she was with someone because Kevin had done something to her, and this person was willing to help her. She was reaching out. She was building something, maybe not a formal case, but a network of people who knew what was happening. If Faux became aware that she was talking, that people were starting to know his name in connection with what he'd done to her. A man like that does not respond well to exposure. All three of those factors likely existed simultaneously, and together they created a situation that ended with her body in a bayou at Chimney Rock Park, while her family waited by their phones, hoping for a different outcome. And the part that should keep every single person watching this up at night is that none of this was hidden. The courts had Faux on record. They had a September 2025 arrest. They had a February 2026 conviction. They had a pregnant victim who had already been physically harmed by this man. Every piece of information needed to keep Ashanti Allen alive existed somewhere in a file, in a database, in a courtroom record. And still he walked. Still he was free. Still he had access to her. There's a study from the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine that found violence, including homicide, is one of the leading causes of death for pregnant and postpartum women in the United States. Not complications, not medical emergencies, violence. And cases like Ashanti's are exactly why that statistic exists. Because the intersection of pregnancy and domestic abuse is one of the most dangerous places a woman can find herself. And the system, time and time again, treats it like a paperwork issue. Her mother, Teresa, said it plainly. No diplomatic language. No softening it for public consumption. If they would have kept him, my daughter would have still been here. That is not a grieving woman looking for someone to blame. That is a grieving woman stating a fact. A conviction happened. A release happened. A murder happened. Connect the dots. And now Faux is still out there. As of this recording, he has not been caught. A man charged with capital murder. The death of a 23-year-old woman and her unborn son is somewhere in or around Houston living his life, while Ashanti's family is planning a funeral for 2 people at once. Her father, Edward, said something that is going to stay with me. She was my baby girl, and she had my only baby grandson. So right now, I just can't put words into how I feel. This man was preparing to be a grandfather. He was about to watch his daughter step into motherhood, and instead, he got a phone call at work that collapsed his entire world in a single moment. Think about what this family is now carrying. They are grieving Ashanti. They are grieving Jaxon, a child they named, a child they were buying car seats for, a child who represented Ashanti's future moving forward. And on top of that grief, they are sitting with the knowledge that warning signs existed, that the system had opportunities, and that those opportunities were wasted. That is not a burden any family should have to carry. But here they are. Now, if you are watching this and you are in Houston or you have any information about where Kevin Faux is right now, Houston Police Department Homicide can be reached at 713-308-3600. Crime Stoppers is available at 713-222 tips. This man needs to be found. Not next week, not when he decides to surface. Now, because until he is in custody, he is a threat, and Ashanti's family deserves to see him face what he did in the courtroom. And if you are watching this and you are in a situation that looks anything like what Ashanti was in, someone with a history of putting their hands on you, someone who monitors your movements, someone who makes you feel like leaving is more dangerous than staying, please tell someone. Not because it guarantees safety. This case proves the system is far from perfect, but because silence is the environment that men like Kevin Faux depend on to operate. Ashanti carried this alone. Her family didn't know the full picture until it was too late. You don't have to carry it alone. To Ashanti Allen, 23 years old, Houston, Texas, a quiet girl who was just trying to build something real. And to Jaxon, who never got to take a single breath outside of his mother's arms, but was already loved before the world even got to meet him. This channel sees you both. This community sees you both. And we are going to keep saying your names until the man responsible is behind bars. If this case hit you the way it hit me, drop a comment below. Tell me what part of the story you think deserves more attention, because there are still threads in this case that have not been fully pulled. Subscribe if you are new here, because we are not done covering this. And share this video, because the more people who know Kevin Faux' face and name, the harder it becomes for him to hide. Ashanti deserved better. Jaxon deserved better. And we are not going to let this story get buried.